People who have participated in Couchsurfing.com. What are some horror stories and what are your best experiences while couchsurfing? I can definitely recommend Couchsurfing. I've surfed a couple of times in Luxembourg, France and Germany. When I was in Berlin I stayed at this really rich guy's apartment in one of the best neighborhoods of the city. I had my own bedroom with a king size bed and I had my own bathroom with a rain shower and a huge butt bathtub. I felt like I was in a 5 hotel. The guy that hosted me was a manager who spent half his week in London, so for 3 out of my 5 days there I had the place to myself. He trusted me with the keys and everything. It probably won't be that luxurious usually, but gosh, I had the best time. I've hosted and the worst experience was a girl who asked if her dog could stay too. My ad was clear that I love animals, but my landlord did not, thus no animals. She couldn't line anything else up, so she asked if she could crash, but she leave her dog in her car during the night. Well, after I went to bed she snuck her dog in. He hadn't been washed in a long time. Come to think of it, neither had she, and he left weird greasy stains on my couch. My first couchsurfing experience was the best by far. Our husband and I were on a cross-country trip. He set us up to stay with a highly rated middle-aged gay couple in featuring Lauderdale. Now, I wasn't concerned with safety or anything. Everyone kept saying what if they're axe murderers, but come on, they're letting you into their home. And how do they know that we're not axe murderers? But anyway, I wasn't expecting much. It's called couchsurfing, so I was expecting a couch, maybe an inflatable mattress if we're lucky. We enter through a lovely outdoor courtyard with heated pool. In the kitchen is another couple that are couchsurfing as well. One of our hosts says, "They got here first, so you guys get sloppy seconds." Meaning we got the apparently not as nice bedroom. We go in, beds made up, canopy hanging over top, tons of pillows, our own bathroom en suite, complete with towels and washcloth set out, with mini soaps and travel shampoos. Back downstairs, one of the guys gives us a set of keys to the house. To their freaking house. We met literally 20 minutes ago. Then they took us out for a beer where we chatted about the city, couchsurfing, etc etc. Next morning we wake up and go downstairs. The 2 gentlemen hosts had gone to work, and the other couple had already left for the day. The kitchen is stocked with breakfast, a line of cereal boxes, bowl of fruit, tray of cookies, box of pastries, juices in the fridge. On the counter, stacks of travel brochures for featuring Lauderdale, set out like a freaking hotel lobby. We went south a day later, to camp in the Keys, but it was hot, buggy, and miserable, and we got no sleep. I called them back, asking if we could please come back for one night, and they said of course. Also they had a fluffy white dog that was just as nice as they were. It would be really awkward if 2 ex-murderers couch-surfed at a house where 2 ex-murderers lived. They'd just catch each other in the middle of the night creeping to each other's room with axes. In the end, though, they'd bond over the experience and probably give each other good reviews. I once met a Korean girl in one of those car sharing services. 2 hours later, she calls me telling she had been stiffed by her couchsurfing host and had nowhere to stay. I let her stay at my place, gave her the keys and everything. But since it was Saturday night I left for dinner, and when I came back, around sunrise, she was already gone. She left me a very cute note and awesome handwriting. I left for dinner and when I came back, around sunrise. Man, that must have been a big meal. When I graduated college in 2010, I was having a really hard time finding a job. My college roommate was moving to Seattle, so we decided to drive from Kansas to Seattle and couchsurf along the way. We visited someone in Nebraska, then South Dakota, and then Billings, Montana. The woman who we couchsurfed with in Montana was amazing. She was probably in her mid to late 60s, had served in the Peace Corps and was the most giving, wonderful woman. We got in really late tonight and immediately crashed out with intention of waking and immediately hitting the road again as early as possible. We woke up around 7:30 to incredible pancakes and as many cherries as I've ever seen. Montana cherries in the summer. My god. We woke up and ended up spending the entire day sitting in her apartment talking about life. I ended up having a major breakdown. I have a really hard time in general, especially with unemployment and general feelings of uselessness. And it was so absolutely cathartic. It was really a huge turning point in my life. Cliche, I know, and it really helped me get out of the horrible slump I was in. TLDR. Couchsurfing probably saved my life. Flathead Lake cherries. Possibly the best thing ever. My best experience was when last year in August somebody have written a message to me. It was an Asian man from Hong Kong and he asked if he could spend one night with his father at my place. I've said yes. Me and my mother have prepared for them a true polished dinner and breakfast for the next day. When he came to my city, he and his father were on their bikes. Tony have been cycling from Hong Kong for 5 months. He came on his bike to my city and his destination was to go to Barcelona in Spain. I was just amazed by how he had so much energy and how he was with his journey, what stories he had. It was really a pleasure to have him and his father as guests. His father was traveling on his bike from Warsaw to Amsterdam only. Tony have made his destination point 2 months later, and we still are in touch. It was really one of the best experiences in my life, meeting them and having them as a guest. What an awesome story. That's amazing. Biking all the way to Poland from Hong Kong. Whoa. My friend and I traveled through Western Europe, we are both American, in 2008 while using Couchsurfing, and it was the most amazing experience ever. We were able to travel for 3 months, stay in 16 cities and I was able to afford it with only $2,000 after plane and train tickets. I got to stay with locals who really showed me their city, stayed with a DJ in Rome who took us to a cafe just outside the city for the best meal of our lives, some college dudes in Vienna who took us to some really strange and awesome clubs, stayed with a band in Brussels who really got a kick out of my Barry Manilow collection, hearing Copacabana in a thick French accent was tops, and returned the favor with awesome beer, and that's just off the top of my head. The only bad experience I can think of is when we were in Barcelona. Right when we were at the train station figuring out where to go, our host cancelled on us by text. It's hard to call that a bad experience since we just wandered to the nearest hostel, and that night I met this cute British guy who was staying at the same place. Said British guy and I just got married a few weeks ago. The only bad experience I can think of is when, I met my future husband. Yeah, this couchsurfing thing doesn't sound too bad. I used to live in a house in Berlin where we had people couchsurfing nearly every weekend and plenty of weekdays. It was great. We met absolutely loads of interesting people, and a few widows. I also had one of the worst meals ever cooked for me by a Spanish guy. He insisted on cooking, and was talked up what a great cook he was and amazing his food was going to be. As he was making it he acted like he was on a cookery program, talking us through each step and explaining everything as if we had no idea what things were. He even introduced us to garlic, as if we didn't know what garlic was. The meal was pure disgusting. Basically he made some pasta that was so overcooked it was just mushy, but in the water that he was cooking the pasta in he also put a load of ham and slices of garlic. Then in a separate pan he poured a load of cheap white wine and used it to boil some whole mushrooms, and that's what he served. Mushrooms boiled in white wine on top of mushy pasta with bits of soggy ham in. I've couchsurfed and offered my couch many times. I don't couchsurf or have couchsurfers anymore and haven't for a number of years, but most of my experiences have been really good. I live in New Zealand so I get tons of backpackers, mainly from Europe. I am really picky about who I'll let stay with me because I don't want weirdos in my house. I don't have one single great experience because most people I'll let in are really nice. The most memorable people were a couple who told me they liked wearing onesies and asked if I thought it was weird. Not at all, but they both had half a dozen onesies each. That's dedication. It's great to learn bits of their language, and I often get sent pictures of them when they are elsewhere in New Zealand and still have a few of them as friends. The worst people I've ever hosted was a couple who banged really loudly and frequently. They did it basically all night. They were French, which I understand, and they thought yelling in French would somehow make the experience less awkward for me. Thank God I only stayed one night. I was more cautious about allowing couples after that but got over it. Every other couple has been very discreet about their freaking. The best experience I ever had couchsurfing was in Japan. The guy I was staying with was a student chef, so every night, I was there 3 nights, he made this elaborate dinner for my friend and I, and every morning he gave us little lunch boxes. His name was Iroh and he had a photo of him meeting the voice actor of Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he had blown it up into this huge poster and had it as the centerpiece of his living room. He was awesome. The worst thing that ever happened was with that same friend. We stayed with this American guy who lived in England. He was super fat and had this huge computer set up in his living room. When we got there, he told us he usually only takes girls, but he made an exception for me and my male friend because I was so pretty and he was willing to experiment. He spent the whole night shoving his face with chips, coming onto me and swearing at 12-year-olds on Counter-Strike. He then tried to slip into my bed, the bed that was in the same room and 2 meters away from the bed with my friend in it. It was a single bed. He fell out. We were supposed to stay 2 nights. We did not. That dude will totally escalate one day to murder. I had a French girl over and we agreed that as a payment she'd make coffee each morning. I have a regular coffee maker, where you put coffee in the filter and water in the water reservoir. Then when it gets heated, it will go up into the filter and dribble down trough the coffee to become coffee. I think she'd never seen one of these, though there are, to me, the most basic coffee makers ever. She just put the water on the coffee pot, some coffee in the filter and turn it on. After 10 minutes she was annoyed there wasn't any coffee yet. I still laugh about it every time I make coffee. I'm a woman who has hosted 250 plus people over 6 years on 3 continents. Regularly I host events in my city and participate in others while traveling. I have met fantastic friends through CS, both those who live near me and those from far away. My first time surfing was one of my best and most dramatic. My host picked us up at the land crossing between Ghana and Togo on the coastal highway. The immigration officer tried to cheat me and my co-traveler, insisting that the price was in one currency rather than the other. Host ripped the guy a new one and slammed down on the table the correct amount of money. Visas fixed. Over the next 3 days, he took us around Lome, Aniho, and some villages in the interior. He showed us the natural beauty of the country. He showed us what has been ruined by years of military dictatorship. He explained why it would be so hard to recover, and showed us what little industry remains. He introduced us to family, friends, neighborhood gatherings. What I love most, his reason for participating in Couchsurfing was to expose his young sons, 10, 6, and 3 years old, to foreigners. He wanted them to understand other languages. He wanted them to appreciate other cultures. He wanted them to know that foreigners aren't just do-gooders who come on charities and evangelical mission to give stuff as charity or to begging children. No awful experiences hosting or surfing, but some people who, despite careful profile reading, didn't click with me in real life. Worst hosting experiences are 1. Dirty smelly hippie stereotype and 2. A Hungarian dude who was trying to find himself after he was dumped by a girlfriend, would not stop talking about her. Super creepy. Understood in a short time why she dumped him. In Canada, hosted 20 plus people, 1-2 at a time. All were good experiences except maybe one person who got lost downtown after drinking and called me at night when I had to wake early. I'll never understand why people think that's okay. Well, I didn't want to drive drunk. Well, I didn't want to drive you. Best experiences. It's hard to choose. I went to see Second City in Chicago with a host once and we all had a really good time. A host generally showing me around DC and taking me to a filming of a web series he was doing was pretty awesome. Worst, although the host was amazing and really cool, his apartment was pretty dirty. The sheets on my bed were gross the first night and they were crumpled in the corner of the bed when I came in the room. It was mostly a weird miscommunication though. He just didn't notice that the bed only had that one sheet the first night and he gave me better ones the next night. I was just too timid I guess on the first night to ask for clean sheets. TLDR. Due to miscommunication, slept with dirty sheets for a night. Wasn't that bad. I've hosted, but my craziest story ever was from a couchsurfing meetup at a bar on a Saturday 3 years back. I'd moved to Amsterdam a few months prior from the US to study astronomy, and just so happened that the German guy I chose to sit down next to was also a physicist, in town for the weekend for the first time to help a friend move. We spent 10 minutes discussing research interests and the like, and then he mentioned something offhand about how he lived in New Zealand previously. I proceed to freak out. Johannes, Professor WZ&M class, Auckland. First half of 2007 because, you see, I studied abroad there that semester, and this guy was in my class. We did homework together even, but had lost touch after I left, and neither of us had any idea what the other had done in the 5 years since. Yet thanks to that meetup, we had run into each other. A lot of squealing ensued when we recognized each other, not all of it from me, and we chatted until the wee hours. It was incredible. All thanks to the Couchsurfing meetup. The world is so much smaller than we think it is. Frick, I got to travel, man. The lucky thing about Couchsurfing.com is that people tend to let their freak flags fly online, so it's easy to vet out people you should avoid. That said, 1. Me, female, and 3 guys are couchsurfing, and the only guy available in our designated city said he could host 3 people max, no exceptions. We message him anyway, asking if the 4 of us could please spend a night at his. 4th person will sleep on the floor if we have to, etc. Just please make an exception for us. His response? Absolutely not, unless one of you is a girl who wants to share my bed. My 3 guy friends looked at me pleadingly, even offered to duct tape my butt cheeks shut if I agreed and had to share his bed, but there was no way that was going to happen. 2. Spent the night at a guy's place, but I'm pretty sure he was a squatter. We showed up. Nobody's home and there's no lock on the door, but written on the back of the door in Sharpie, please don't invite anyone over, nor bring authorities or food delivery here for any reason. I'm not really supposed to be here. Enjoy your stay. 3. Me and the 3 dudes again. This time we find a nice mom and dad who are obviously hippie outdoor types willing to host us. We show up really late at night. They warned us they wouldn't be home but told us to ring the doorbell and someone would answer. We're confused, but ring the doorbell and a girl in her mid-20s wearing a shirt and a thong opens the door. Turns out she's couchsurfing there too that night. My traveling companions were pretty excited, but WHO sleeps in a thong at a stranger's house. Nobody has had an awful experience couchsurfing? Honestly, that is blowing my mind because I am so cynical. I would just expect everyone to be buttholes and steal crap or take advantage of the situation. The site is review based, and even if you're dealing with first timers, it's honestly pretty easy to gauge people after a conversation and a bit of Facebook stalking. It makes you realize though that most of the people in the world are genuinely good people, just looking to make friends and have a good time. The small percentage of genuine weirdos out there kind of ruin it for the rest. I've never surfed, but I hosted once. It was a couple of 20-year-old German girls. They were really nice. Even helped me walk my dog while I was at work. They were there for a weekend, so I invited some friends over and grilled up a real American BBQ. Showed them around town a bit too. One of the girls turned 21 while she was at my place in Philly, so I helped her friend mark up her passport so it looked like she was 21 so she could go out with us to celebrate. Surprisingly, it worked at every bar. I just used a regular black pen to change the number. Apparently bouncers don't see men passports, so they don't thoroughly examine them. I took them out on the town and we had a good time until one of them ended up drinking too much and threw up all over herself in the cab. Was actually pretty nasty, haha. Other than that, it was a good experience and would definitely do it again. The tragic twist. The girl with the altered passport was seized at the airport for attempting to travel with forged fraudulent documents, held for 96 hours, added to the no-fly list, and returned to Germany in shame. D. I was hosted in Amsterdam by the only individual who was willing to offer their couch to someone in their older 30s. Literally, the only individual. I was either ignored or politely turned down. Anyway, it was an awesome experience due to the fact that this person, 1. Totally knew the ins and outs of the city, 2. Was a full-blown anarchist who shared my love of 80s American hardcore music, 3. Had great stories to share. Thanks again, Eli. Being treated like family, relearning that 99% of people are beautiful and caring at heart, having warm showers and hot meals while cycling all day going across the US, meeting great people and friends in the town I'm staying. One time a male host was hitting on me, straight male, a lot and started massaging up my leg while I was laying on his bed watching Prison Break with him. Felt nice and I was too tired to care much, but the surprise rubbing definitely woke me up. He offered to tuck me in and I said nah man. That's not even a horror story. More just a funny getting hit on by a guy story. Better than being asked, do you want to frick me 60 seconds after a guy in Nagpur, India was pretty excited to meet a foreigner. I honestly can't think of a negative experience via couchsurfing. I highly recommend it CS to anybody. Relearning that 99% of people are beautiful and caring at heart. Not to be a downer, but the subset of people who are willing to take in couchsurfers are most likely not representative of the entirety of humanity. I will agree that 99% of couchsurfing associated people are beautiful and caring at heart. Both times I hosted, it was a last minute save from another host in my city whose places apparently is super dirty. I couldn't confirm if they came from the same house, but I thought that was odd. The sad thing is I don't think either surfers gave the guy a bad review. People are too nice. Oh, I have a good one for this. I went to Paris back in May. Booked a nice little 1-bedroom in Montmartre. Great view and a tiny balcony. The place looked like it belonged to an artist photographer. Loved everything I saw in that place. When my friend and I finally arrived there, holy crap. First of all, it was a studio. There was no bedroom. Second, the place couldn't have been bigger than 320 sqf. I mean, this was a shoebox. Not a big deal if it's my friend and I, but the guy is supposed to stay there too. It smelled of sewage and BO. There was a twin-sized bed, a chair and a piano in there. The way the guy talked just gave us the chills. I can't really put it in words. He clearly saw a photo of my friend and I because he pointed out several times how beautiful we are and kept stroking his piano while saying crap like, "Do you like my piano?" Because the room was so small and we naturally assumed he wouldn't be staying there. When we asked him though, he said we'd sleep on the twin bed and he'd sleep on the wooden chair, right by the bed. He kept touching himself in a weird, slow way and there was just something not quite right about this guy. But what the frick can we do? We're in Paris. We have nowhere to go. Everything seemed booked. So we went to a bar, naturally, to figure something out. I made a few calls and casually texted my boss saying I'm screwed. He arranged for us to stay at the Ramada right by the Eiffel Tower, with the view. The very same night, we ran back to get our things and I made something up like, "Oh, you are lovely and the place is lovely, but we got this amazing offer at the Ramada that we just cannot refuse." He was so insistent that we stay and was standing by the door. We kept saying we were leaving and just apologizing to the guy. When I picked my bag up and the big bottle of wine I got earlier, he moved. We were out in a freaking second. I think you dodged Magnota. American guy. I've surfed 2 times. The first time was when I was studying in Barcelona. I went with 2 girls to visit Valencia and stayed at an apartment that housed a German dude, an Argentinian dude, a Czech dude and South Korean dude. They were also hosting 4 other girls at the same time. Needless to say, it was packed, but everyone there was extremely nice and tons of fun. On the first night, they cooked us all some really good Argentinian food, then took us out to a party with all of their friends from their university. It kind of ended up turning into an everyone hooked up with someone by the end of the night, which somehow wasn't awkward at all. I got the suite. Next day, they told us all the best places to go and sent us on our way. We came back and stayed at the place the next night, but had done our own thing most of the night and just slept there. I had a feeling I got treated so well because I brought 2 girls with me. Second time, I was backpacking alone through the French Riviera, then found someone to host me in Lyon. It was a guy and a girl living in a nice apartment. The first night, they cooked me a traditional French meal and we just drank wine and watched Toy Story dubbed in French with English subtitles. The next day, they gave me ideas of things to do and let me know when they'd be back. I went to the zoo and wandered the city all day and found the ingredients to make them a traditional meal from where I'm from. I'm from Southern California, so I went with fajitas. We all went out the bars that night and partied, and once they got me drunk they would tell me things to say to girls in French. Then I left for Paris the next morning. I love couchsurfing and will host once I have the capabilities to do so. I would recommend it to anyone as long as you make sure to check reviews and you feel safe about it. I would definitely do it again. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.